I think we'd better start the sub-plenary session on technological innovations for sustainable development. Thank you for joining this sub-plenary session. May I advise colleagues joining the call that if you are not speaking, you need to turn off your video and audio so as not to disturb the panelists when the session is ongoing. I would like to turn over now to Professor Albert Teo, who will be moderating the sub-plenary session with Howard Ling. Albert?
Okay, thank you very much, Gomer. Hello, everyone. I'm Albert Teo, originally from Singapore, but I'm currently working in Hong Kong, and I'm a professor in the Tung Hua College in Hong Kong. So a very warm welcome to our sub-plenary on technological innovations for sustainable development. And with me is my co-moderator, Howard Ling. Howard was earlier in plenary session 3, and he gave a very interesting presentation on artificial intelligence and social intelligence. So Howard is quite famous in Hong Kong. He's a serial social entrepreneur, and I believe he has set up and incubated about 30 social enterprises over the years. Okay, so maybe let me tell you a little bit more about our agenda for today. For today, we are very privileged to have with us 5 speakers representing 4 technology-driven social enterprises in Asia. So these 4 social enterprises, they are 2 of them from Singapore, Water Roam and Sustainable Living Hub led. And we have 1 social enterprise from Taiwan, our City Love social enterprise, and 1 social enterprise from Hong Kong, mLang. So from the presentations later, you will find that these 4 social enterprises are actually very excellent case studies of how technological innovations can drive positive transformational social change. And you will also find that these social enterprises show us how technological innovations can enable communities around the world to achieve the sustainable development goals. And more importantly, they show us how technological innovations can result in social and economic inclusion of grassroots communities, disadvantaged communities, marginalized communities, enabling these communities to gain empowerment. Okay, and before I introduce our first speaker, maybe a little bit of ground rules. If you have questions for the speakers, please do post them on the chat box. And at the end of the presentations, we will revisit the questions and then we will pose the questions to our speakers. Okay, so let me introduce our first speaker. Our first speaker is David Pong. He is the co-founder and CEO of Water Roam from Singapore. Back in 2014, David and his co-founders set up Water Roam when they were still students in National University of Singapore. So they came up with this technology, a water filtration system that allows communities to have access to clean, safe drinking water. Today, Water Roam has spread its wings, or rather the products of Water Roam can be found in 38 different countries. And so that's really amazing. And so they have enabled different rural and disaster-hit communities in these 38 different countries access to clean, drinking, safe water. So let me now hand the floor over to David. David, please.
Thanks, Prof. Albert. and pleasure to meet everyone here. Thank you for having me and allowing me to share more about Water Room. I'm going to pull up my screen shortly. Let me just do that. Okay. Yep, so I will take this time to share a little bit about the founding and the starting journey of Water Room. So it was in 2014, I was just about to graduate and I was asking myself, what do I really want to do? And in that reflective mode, I was looking at the scenery that we typically have in Singapore, which is a beautiful site of the reservoirs being used as a nice area for people to relax, enjoy, at the same time to store our water. But little did I know that this actually triggered a thought in me that we have been so privileged to have such access to clean water that we don't really think too much about it. Tap water is running and is readily available in many of our houses. But as I was thinking about it and started to do a little bit more research, I realized that out there in the world, 2.1 billion of people still have issues getting this access and they may not have such a privilege. So I decided, why not test it out and go out on the ground to check it out whether this was true. Together with some friends, we took our cameras and our phones and we started to go into various countries around the region and realized that this was a very critical issue. Right, when we visited Cambodia, Nepal, Myanmar, and many places in Asia, especially rural development, what we see is that many water sources are still very contaminated. And this is the day-to-day typical life that most of these villages have to endure and go through. Right, so all these pictures are from ourselves. We didn't pull them out of Google, but it is our personal experiences of what we saw firsthand in the ground. I think what really broke our heart is to be able to see that children were the one that were heavily affected. And in fact, 50% of children under the age of 12 experience chronic diarrhea on a day-to-day basis. And this typically causes them to lose out the opportunities in going to school and subsequently miss out on education. I think the biggest worrying thing is that this leads to an entire cycle of poverty, and it all stems with a lack of clean water. Leading to poor health, poor education, and also limited work opportunities if they don't have sufficient education, leading to lack of ability to afford basic necessities like water, and that keeps them in this entire cycle. So we also try to check out what are the existing solutions, and we realized that it's not that there were a lack of solutions. In fact, there were plenty of solutions. But the challenge is that when we are trying to cater to rural developing locations, the solutions that will work effectively for them may not be the same solutions that work effectively for the urban environment. So for example, in Singapore, we have pipelines, and this will work very well in a centralized location where everyone is populated in a very centralized manner. But when it comes to rural locations where everyone is decentralized and scattered, this becomes very challenging to be able to cater to them in a cost-effective way. Right. Other solutions also have their various cons when it comes to the rural environment. We also noticed that the rural poor tends to pay a lot more for water. So for example, in Singapore, where we typically have an average consumption of 150 liters per person, and this makes up to about 18,000 per family, we're only paying about 35 US per month. But in comparison to a Cambodian household, for example, where they are consuming 10 times less water simply because there's not as much access to water, they are already paying something like 7.5% to 36% of their income on water. And this is definitely against, not in line with the Sustainable Development Goal 6, which is to be able to provide equitable and universal, affordable and safe access to clean water. What makes matters worse is that natural disasters hit Asia very frequently, and we see that Philippines and Indonesia are one of the highest hit places in the world, causing 130 million people to lose access to such precious clean water infrastructure that has been painstakingly built over time. So in light of this, we decided we need to deal with this problem and tackle this, even though this problem still exists in the 21st century. So together with two engineers and from NUS, National University here of Singapore here, we decided to start our journey into tackling this. The first thing we had to do was to conduct interviews, find out what was going on in the field, and then we started to do prototyping and test out more than 20 to 30 different prototypes, and many of them worked or failed on the ground, and we had to learn, relearn a lot of our experiences, mainly because we were taking the urban mindset into the rural, and that didn't really work out. But what we really needed to do is to understand the rural and such regions before we were coming up with a solution for them. So eventually we were able to finalize on a key principles of design that we still hold on to today, which is it must be safe for consumption, it must be simple to use so that even a layman without technical or engineering knowledge can be able to easily adopt it to their day-to-day lives, and it also must be swift to deploy, swift to operate, swift to maintain. So today what we have, one of our flagship products is this Room Filter Plus, which is a bicycle pump filter. How it operates is like a bicycle pump. You pull up the piston, it draws a column of water from the river, well, stream. Once you push it down, there's a valve that prevents the water from flowing back into the river, and it goes through a membrane process and immediately filters out 250 liters of clean drinking water per hour. And this is all based on WHO standards, safe for consumption, immediate consumption, and enough for 100 people within a system that only weighs 2.5 kg. Right. So this is an example of how it is being utilized. You find the source water, immediately set it up, stand and start pumping, and you can get clean water quickly. So we're thankful that today we've been able to deploy this for disaster situations with corporates, NGOs across various regions. We also work with military as well for various refugee crises and humanitarian crises. On the long-term rural development side, we also cater to orphanages, schools, homes in rural development locations. And we also have this micro-entrepreneurship scheme where we are empowering individuals to become entrepreneurs so that they sell clean water to their neighbors through utilizing our solution. That is a quick and fast way for them to be able to provide clean water. And we are thankful that today we can be able to serve underserved communities with accessible and affordable clean drinking water that's based on our cost breakdown, that equates to 70 cents per month for every family, and that is considered a very equitable and affordable access to safe water for many communities across Asia. So this is some of the impact that we've had so far, 100,000 people across 38 countries. And we continue to strive towards a target of 1.5 million lives by 2022, and also impacting them in terms of their life, living, and livelihood. That's all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, David. It's a very inspiring talk. So just to make sure I got the key points. First, I learned that the product should be safe, and then the intervention should be simple and swift. And also it's very interesting that now you are actually encouraging the rural families, individuals and families to engage in micro-entrepreneurship. So that's really interesting and very wonderful. Your products have actually touched the lives of 100,000 people all over the world. So thank you very much, David. Now, let me introduce our second speaker, Dr. Chong Wei Lin. He is an old friend whom I met many years ago at some conferences. Okay, so Chong Wei is the founder and curator of our City Love social enterprise in Taiwan. Chong Wei is not only a social entrepreneur, but he's also an information scientist. So he has developed a cloud-based accessibility information platform which benefits different communities. So these include people with disabilities, older persons, as well as parents with young children who need to be moved around in strollers. So basically, this platform provides accessibility information, very useful information about accessibility of restaurants, of hotels, transportation, various facilities, services. And I believe that our City Love has also licensed its technology to organizations in both Hong Kong and Malaysia. So let me now hand the floor over to Chong Wei. Chong Wei, please.
Hello, everyone. I'm Chong Wei from Taiwan. And as you can see on the screen, the one who is waving is me, okay? Hi, Howard. And also Professor Dune, great to meet you again. Okay, so I would like to thank Professor Dune's introduction. And also here, I'm going to share my slides. So you see that? Okay, so this is our City Love social enterprise in Taiwan. Okay, so basically, if you can read Chinese, and you will be understanding that these three characters, the Chinese characters, it means human, it means people. So our City Love is a company that we dedicate ourselves to improving accessibility. But what really make us as a social enterprise is that we co-work with the disabled partners. That means we try to train them, empower them, and get these disabled partners to join our projects with government and also with business to improve their accessibility, including both product design and also service design. So our city love is unlike other social enterprise. It actually is a information platform, and also our city love is a design house that we help the government and the company to design new product and new services that could help to improve the accessibility in our society. So the key idea of our city love is that we believe that our disabled partners are not people with disabilities. On the contrary, they are people with different abilities. So our job is to help them and get them involved with the information infrastructure of our society. That's exactly like what Professor Dion has introduced. So in our cities, there are many places we want to make them accessible, but mostly maybe due to historical or natural reasons, we could not do it. So we try to build up a network that collect and to leverage all the accessible like restaurants or hotels or touristic travel destinations and even public transportation. So when we link this service information together, we can help the people who need these services to get these services very easily and quickly. And at the same time, it is also a critical need from these service providers. For example, many government or public service or the business, they want to improve their services, but they just don't know how to do that. So we have our disabled partners to work as consultants or as their surveyors to help them to improve to train their employees and try to improve their services. So when we link all the things together, it effectively get a chance to work with the CSR project with big companies, and we all are now facing hyper-aged markets. And in Taiwan, the situation is very serious. Just last month in August, Taiwan now is in a new progress that we are heading super age society. In 5 years, about 20% of our Taiwan's total population will be over 65. Okay, so how to improve new product and how to design new services that fit the need, not just for the disabled people, but also for the physically impaired or challenged seniors and their caregivers are now a critical issue in Taiwan. So this is how we do that. So our disabled partners, they really get involved with the real improvement project locally. So this is a picture that they are helping the local government to improve their park design, the entrance design. And another interesting project is that we work with the car manufacturer in Taiwan. We designed the first accessible vehicle in Taiwan, and that is not aimed just like in Hong Kong or in Singapore. Mostly we see the rehabilitation bus, right? The rehabilitation bus, mostly they look like an ambulance. But in Taiwan, when we design it, it's for family use. So you can see that this is the first car in Taiwan and designed locally to serve as the family vehicle to serve the physically challenged seniors. And also, we collect this information together. So if you search in the internet 9453, and it's mostly now still in Chinese, it's a portal website that collects all the accessible travel destinations, restaurants, and hotels in Taiwan so that they could read it and find it, this information before they go out, so that they could, just reduce the risk when they go out with families and then you find that the place is not accessible or not. So this is one of our project. And another important idea is that we link the different service providers here. For example, here is a project that we work with the public accessible taxi here. So this is a very interesting pictures because this is me in the middle, and you see that we bridging the service providers. For example, this is a very funny grandma. She holds a persimmon cake on her hand. So they are farming and the rural villages travel destinations. And here is the government agency that is responsible to build up accessible facilities in the rural villages. And here, the gentleman, which is taller than I, just standing next to me. And he is the president of the car manufacturer here in Taiwan. And also here, this is the manager of the taxi driver here. So we link them all together, and they are benefit from our accessible travel information. And also they are benefit by how we help them locally improve their product and services. So when we link all the things together, and there is also a very exciting news from our City Love in Taiwan. That is during the COVID-19, we developed a new car in Taiwan. This is the second one. And you just try to compare them. Let me show you the picture again. This is the first one. So it looks already much better, not look like an ambulance, and it looks good, and for family recreation use. However, the new one, this is a picture. We use the universal design idea. So basically, this is an SUV in Taiwan. This is 5 seats, and it looks just like an ordinary car. However, they hide this holding rack inside the back seat, so that if you need it, you can bring it. You can use this car as a to help with your baby strollers or even with wheelchairs. So this is the new ideas that we get our disabled partners working as designers to help different people, to help different industry to design new services. So I'm going to show you a 30 seconds video, and you are going to know what we are talking about, something like this. Yes. So you see, this car, this new one, is in the market at the very beginning of July. So now it's only about 3 months. So we adopt these new ideas and adopt the improving suggestions by our disabled partners and also their caregivers. So this new car is not a welfare vehicle anymore. So it's a new idea that this car, the new services, the new accessible services in our society should be universal design, which means that the bikers could easily folding their bikes into the car. And then if you need it, it will serve as your accessible transportation partners. So our idea is that a social enterprise could be more than just a solution providers. We could also serve as a bridge, as a platform to link different service providers and to link them together in designing new services and new products to the society. So that is my sharing, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chong Wei, for your very interesting sharing and also very interesting video. Okay, so for me, the takeaways, the key takeaways from your presentation were firstly that our City Love is not only an information platform, it's also a design house. So this is something new that I learned today. And as you reminded us, people with disabilities are actually people with different abilities. And it's great that you have actually provided an opportunity for them to work closely with your social enterprise, where they come on board as consultants to businesses that are interested in improving the accessibility of their premises to people with different abilities. And also, we learned from you today that a social enterprise is also important as a bridge, as a link between various social service providers. And then finally, you talked about universal design. And so these were the key takeaways for me, and I'm sure for our various participants. So thank you very much. Now, let me introduce the third social enterprise. The social enterprise is mLang, which is based in Hong Kong. As I understood from my conversations with our two presenters, mLang actually is a digital language learning platform, and it helps two groups of students to improve or to facilitate their learning of a second language. So one target group of students are actually disadvantaged ethnic Chinese students who struggle to learn English as their second language. The other community are the ethnic minority students who struggle to learn Chinese as their second language. mLang was founded by Dr. Elizabeth Low and Dr. Wing-Wah Kee. Unfortunately, the two co-founders are not able to join us today because of schedule conflicts, but they are represented by their two very able colleagues. So one colleague we have today with us is Jessica Choi. Jessica is mLang's English as a Second Language Curriculum Development Officer. The other speaker representing mLang is Kin On Lee. Kin is the Technology Development Manager. So let me now hand over the floor to Jessica and Kin.
Thank you so much, Albert. Let me share the screen first. Here you go. Hold on, sorry. I need to share the audio as well. Share computer sound. So thank you so much for Albert's introduction. So it saves some of my time to introduce mLang. So I'm Jessica. I am a registered English teacher in Hong Kong, and I've taught primary and secondary schools in Hong Kong before I joined mLang. I'm going into introducing mLang first. So we were established in 2014, and mLang is a digital language learning platform. And so it's basically students have to submit flashcards with written text for recording sound and uploading their photos. So by uploading photos, it's more than just finding a photo from Google. They can use the electronic devices to take photos and to upload it into the card. So they find learning a second language more fun, more engaging, and more relatable. So what does mLang mean? So Dr. Low would always say that it's more than master of learning, it's more than modality, it's the vitamin M we want to give students. So we want students to be able to mobilize in society, to get a better job future, and to be able to get into universities. So Howard is indeed our advisor, and thank you so much for his support throughout the years to help us to build as a social enterprise. We're very grateful for that. And this is Dr. Low, and then this is Dr. Key. They are our founders, and we have a project manager as well as a CSL curriculum officer as well, Dr. Lau, and we have an in-house technology team. So going back to the background a little bit, so I'm going to talk about the background and pedagogy, and Ken will be talking about the tech part of the platform. So Dr. Low and Dr. Key first served the EM students in local Chinese schools, and they saw them going into classroom with frustration and being extremely unmotivated. That's why they came up with this idea of helping them to learn Chinese as a second language. As you can see from the PowerPoint here, EM, ethnic minority children and students, they have higher dropout rate and lower university entry rate compared to the local Chinese students. So by not being able to master the Chinese language in daily life, it will close many doors for them in job searching. So it's the same for English skills for local Chinese students. If you have better English language skills, it's easier to find a job and get into university as well. So the challenges we face, so we see the problem in here, and the challenges we face in the traditional teaching in Hong Kong is that there's always a textbook, and the textbook cater for tens of thousands of students, but they have different characters, they have different abilities, and they have different interests. So one size fits all learning materials is one of the challenges, and delay teachers' feedback. Because traditionally, teachers always use paper and pen. So it takes time for them to grade and to give them back to students. So, but for mLang platform, we're able to cater for the learning needs of students because teachers are able to give individualized feedback. And I'll show you in the next slide. So basically, students will produce flashcards and they can read each other flashcards. So they can comment on each other flashcards, and teacher can give individualized feedback by words or by sound recording. So for dyslexic children, it's extremely useful because they can't read words too well, as you know. So by listening to the recording, it's easier for them, and it's easier for them to be able to catch up in the language lesson, and they won't be left behind. So the goal of the mLang learning cycle is we break away from the fixed content and passive, like student being passive. We want students to be proactive, and we want expansive content. Students create their own learning pool, and by receiving individualized feedback, they're more encouraged and empowered to learn a second language, and they become proactive and independent learners. So that's my part, and for the next part, Kim will talk about more about the tech part of mLang platform. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Jessica, and thank you very much for letting us to present our company and our project. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Kin On Lee. I'm the Technology Development Manager of mLang. I'm mainly responsible for the technological development of the mLang platform, along with my team of software engineers and researchers, as Jessica has just shown before. I'm also delivering teachers and student workshop along with the members of the curriculum development officers like Jessica and Dr. Lau on using the mLang platform. And for myself, I was a ICT teacher from the United Kingdom, as well as I have also experience teaching Chinese as a second language students in Hong Kong. So first of all, I would like to show you a very short video about the mLang platform and how students and teachers interact through through our platform. So Jessica, can you please play the videos? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Jessica. As you can see on the video, our platform supports interaction with sound, picture, and text, supporting mLang users not only in their day-to-day teaching, but also other activities as well. One of the most important elements to make any new pedagogy works are the teachers. I was a teacher of ICT, is Information and Communication Technologies in the United Kingdom for 5 years before. Using technology in my daily teaching is a norm for me. I have also experienced changes of teaching strategies and introduction of new technology in classroom during that time. The most common reason of resentment from teachers when being introduced new technologies are the feeling of increased workload as a result of such introduction and the technical issues encountered during the application, and they feel that they do not have the confidence and the support to deal with such issues. These resentment and frustrations are common no matter which country the teachers practiced. Our approach to this is through the on-site support and workshops. We listen to what the teachers needs and how they do deliver lessons in classrooms, and we develop our platform accordingly, which makes the technology suits the needs of the teachers. It builds around the teachers' needs, rather than the teachers need to adapt, need to change when they use the technology. This way, they will feel that using the technology in the classroom like our platform not only will reduce their workload, also improves the students' learning. Some of our popular features we have developed in the past year are the teachers can record sound as part of the instructions to students. This is very useful for instructing works to students with special education needs. Also, we have two project banks. We have now we can support team teaching, and now we even have a matching game included in our platform. Next slide, please. The outbreak of the coronavirus has changed the way we teach and learn. Now the teachers and students in Hong Kong have to quickly adapt to remote teaching and learning. This faces a great challenge for them in terms of the classroom management and the teaching strategies available. This also gives an opportunity for the teachers to explore other solutions of e-teaching and learning. We can see that they are now willing to try new technologies and new teaching strategies as before. E-learning platform like ours becomes an ideal platform in the remote teaching and learning environment. An example of such use is one of our partnership schools have decided to use our platform to allow students to submit homework of all subjects where they just take a picture of the worksheet and just submitting to their teachers, as the teachers giving verbal and written feedback to them. In this way, they can still keep a level of students and teachers interaction. I can also see that the technology will play a more important role in the education sector than ever. As a former ICT teacher, I can see that over the years, ICT has become a tool of learning of the other subjects rather than a discrete subjects that the students need to learn. Through the opportunity of more practicing cross-curricular, the teachers and students will become more IT literate than before, and they will be more open to the use of any technologies developed in the future. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much, Kenon and Jessica. It's great that you have developed pedagogy that actually enhances students' learning of a second language. And I like some of the points that you have made. So you contrasted the traditional approach of using textbooks where you have fixed content versus the mLang platform, where you encourage students to develop their own expensive content. And then that makes learning proactive, whereas in the traditional textbook-based sort of learning, pedagogy is more passive learning. And also, I like the point that you made about partnering the teachers. So the teachers are a very key stakeholder in the success of the mLang platform. And also, I think one of your last points is really amidst the COVID-19 pandemic, interestingly, mLang has become an even more important pedagogical tool for both teachers and students. So thank you very much for the very inspiring sharing. Thank you. Now, I would like to present the fourth social enterprise, Sustainable Living Lab, which is SL2 for short, based in Singapore. So the founder, Veerapan Swaminathan, actually he's my former student back in National University of Singapore. And I remembered that he founded SL2 almost immediately after he graduated from university. Veera, unfortunately, cannot join us today because I think he has another speaking engagement. But he has appointed his very able colleague, Akib Alvi, to represent SL2 at our Sub-Plenary. So Akib is actually the country manager of the Singapore office. I understand SL2 currently has got 3 offices, one in Singapore, one in Indonesia, and one in India. So Akib is with the Singapore office, and recently he shared with me some of the exciting things that they are doing in the Singapore office, like a very massive project on bridging the technology gap for non-technical populations. Then he also shared that he's leading projects in community upskilling and environmental initiatives. So SL2 is basically a consultancy that helps organizations as well as communities to harness technologies and innovations to achieve the sustainable development goals. So let me now hand the floor over to Akib. Akib, please.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much, Mr. Albert and Gomer, for involving me in this. So I was speaking to Veera as well, and he has told me a lot of these things about Mr. Albert, and how close his relationship with you has been, and your support throughout. Thank you all the other presenters as well. It has been an amazing listening opportunity for me as well to learn about these things. And again, I would thank you, Mr. Albert, for doing a brief introduction about myself. Let me just pull up my presentation. I hope everybody can see that. So I think how I would want to basically discuss is more about how SL2 has expanded into Indonesia and India from Singapore head office. It all happened last year before COVID, of course, and we already had to take so many measures to mitigate the effects. But what we managed to do is we managed to survive, and that is what I'm going to talk about as well today. So SL2, as Mr. Albert told you about, we are a consultancy firm, and we basically work with government organization, corporate organization, and community organizations to develop sustainable innovation programs for them. So how it works is, of course, we work with the 3P sector, both public, private, and people sector. And we basically deal with UN SDGs across. So we primarily work with education industry, but we also work with industries. We work with upskilling and reskilling populations as well. And then we design a lot of IoTs as well to bridge the technological gaps among the countries, and also bridge the gaps between non-technical and technical people as well. So our mission is basically to create this whole network around us, which can basically help each other out to develop and to further enhance the SDGs and to achieve them in the time that has been allocated as 2030. We were founded in Singapore, and then we moved on to India and Indonesia as well last year. So in terms of key activities, we call them 3 pillars of SL2. We have community, cooperation, and future skills. So in the community part, where we actually work with the community members and community folks, and we have worked with a beautiful program called Repair Kopitiam. It is involving we have about 15 different offices now in Singapore itself, from 2 locations last year, and we're working with the environmental agency. What we do is we basically tackle the buy and throw away culture, where we basically just buy a new phone, and then a new phone comes in and we just throw away the old phone and then get a new phone, right? So now we're trying to teach them repair rather than repair it for them. So we are basically involving a lot of middle to old age population folks who basically comes in as volunteers and learn to repair. And anybody who wants to repair their fans or any of the electronics or any of the other mechanical instruments, they can come to us, and our volunteers will help them in repairing those things. And this basically helps in active aging processes and also enhance their skill developments as well. The second part is corporate innovation, which basically deals with environmental sustainability part, and how we work with you spur the corporate investment. We ask these corporates to invest in sustainable products and services to create newer business models that are long lasting and sustainable for the planet Earth as well. I will talk about the Future Skills Program, which basically deals with economic sustainability. And that's where we actually are tackling the digital divide that is happening right now not just among countries, but within Singapore itself. We have a big gap between non-technical students and technical students. And then these non-technical populations are not able to get jobs in the tech space as well. And as now we see with the post-COVID era that we have, is all majority are technology companies. So we are trying to bridge the gap so that these non-technical people can upskill themselves towards the technology company sides as well, which would allow them more job opportunities and better job opportunities as well. So we work primarily a lot with UN on their SDGs. We have a 3-month SDG innovation platform. We are creating our own online platform as well. With Futures Plus, we are involving a lot of community and upskilling them. We're working with academic partners in both corporate, in Indonesia, India, Singapore, and Bhutan as well. And then we have a Future Skills Academy that we are working on right now, in where we have started off the process with AI skill development and then advancing the SDG agendas accordingly. We have already designed our own SL2 made IoT devices as well, where around them where we have created curriculum which can teach the basics of IoT, and not just the basics, but we are actually using these IoT devices in industries, especially in Indonesia offices. So let me just talk through about business innovations that we have to go through within Singapore. So we were founded in Singapore in 2014. And then at that time, the national focus for Singapore national policy was around innovation. So we focused on a lot of digital manufacturing and IoT trainings. In 2018, just recently, the national focus has been around artificial intelligence, AI. So a lot of our focus has gone towards AI remote programs where we can teach a lot of students and cover a bigger population grounds across the globe as well. We run design sprints and hackathons within Singapore as well. A lot of MNCs who have their regional headquarters in Singapore, they are very much focused on sustainable development goals set by UN. And that's where we bring in and we talk to these MNCs and tell them like how sustainable innovation can happen within the corporation and how they can actually implement it. And that's where our main goal lies as well. Talking about Indonesia last year when we opened up, so of course it was a bit of a trouble for us as well because of the COVID era right now recently. But then the problem that we face is that SMEs are not really focused on SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals. They're mostly focused on productivity and compliance. And that's how we go in as well. And we work with these local partners who are kind of struggling with these NGOs because when they work with NGOs, it's mostly a CSR project, which only happens once a month in a year. Or it's a very short program that they run with CSR. So what we try to do is we basically tell them that you can work with us on a long-term basis, which is actually going to help us in your own productivity and compliance. And then we feed in the sustainability concepts to them as well. So there's a lot of awareness generated because of that. Because we are very focused on implementation, on how it would actually work. So we've gathered a lot of interest in tier 2 and 3 cities in Indonesia. And because of that, we are not based in Jakarta alone, but we are based in Medan to support the wider cities in Indonesia. And just recently with Indonesia's national policy on AI as well, we are developing and working with the government on skills development and job readiness for the youth. Coming to India, so again, we are working, India is just recently launched their own AI policy as well, and we are working with them on our AI readiness and skill development programs for youth and for adults and for workforce as well. And then we are also basically a connecting point to the Indian market for any of the other countries that we have with. So we have a big network and we allow this point of entry to the Indian market as well. And on the side, of course, we are developing our own products which are helping the community as well. I think I would want to talk about the COVID impact that we had and how we had to adopt. So it had a big negative impact on the community and corporate sector because that was very face-to-face and physical events. Community programs, we have been working for the past 6 months to bring it to a physical space with Singapore's policies in place as well. And we are just starting to restart that community programs as well, the 15 locations. Corporate innovation, because it happened because corporate members and employees would travel to Singapore, Indonesia, Cambodia, and we would basically run those programs. So now because of the travel issues, so now we are bringing this whole corporate innovation program online, and we are still in the testing phase and we'll have to see how it goes ahead. But there was a big positive impact on the future skills activities because all these corporate decided that, okay, we need to work on social and economic sustainability issues. And that's where we came in and we're like, okay, we have the resources, we have the programs for you, let us work together on those ends. So there was a big positive impact on the future skills activities portion. We work with cross-sectoral partnerships across the board. We work with the 3P sector throughout, which is the public, private, and people. In terms of government, what we need to do is we need to align and understand the government policies, which are ever changing and evolving. So we design our own processes around it, around the government initiatives. Then in terms of corporate, so they are mostly focused on revenue growth and cost savings, so they're not really listening to sustainability. So what we do is we try to drive our value through their areas of interest. So if they're very much interested in new innovation, new technologies, so we bring that concepts around sustainability and sustainable development goals. In terms of people, of course, so what the problem we have is the consistency and repetition of engagement never really happens. So you can have an event, one-off event, but then these people don't come back. So now we are trying to generate this volunteer-supported model where volunteers actually take the initiative and bring more people in. And again, they're not really focused on sustainability directly. They're just coming in for repairs and all of that. But how we basically, we call it incidental sustainability, where basically these people come in and we say, okay, let's learn together, let's try to fix things together, and while driving the conversations around the sustainability. So this sustainability is basically an involuntary step for them as well. And that creates more awareness around the sustainable development goals. And as you can see, we are working with so many different partners, and these are just a very few. I think that I would like to end my keynote here as well, end my talk here as well. It's just that if you need any sort of discussions, any sort of points that you need to talk about sustainability and tech and how we can bring those together, definitely contact me or contact me. Thank you so much. Over to you, Mr. Albert.
Thank you very much, Akid, for a very interesting presentation. So the key takeaways for me were, first, I like your model of categorizing your activities under community initiatives, corporate innovations, and future skills. And then you map community initiatives to social sustainability, helping to build community resilience. And then for corporate innovations, you map that to environmental sustainability, helping businesses to develop business models, products that are sustainable. And then for future skills, you talked about economic sustainability, helping non-technical people to bridge that digital divide, so upskilling. So that was a very wonderful model for me. And then I like it that it's so clear and it's also like so well categorized. And then you shared different strategies, different initiatives in the 3 different countries. So that really shows that you're very grounded and that you actually understand what's happening in each different country. And then thank you also for sharing the negative impact of COVID-19 on community initiatives and corporate innovations. But on a positive note, the positive impact of COVID-19 on future skills. Okay, so thank you very much, Akid. Now I will hand the floor over to Howard, who has been busy jotting down the questions from the participants for our various speakers. Thank you, Howard.
Thanks, Albert. Actually, I got to thank you for bringing such a great panel and with your great summary after each speaker sessions. It's more like a digestion for us to recap some of the most important points. And what I'm trying to do is while all speakers are sharing, I'm actually jotting down the notes from the chat room so that I can point to the speakers for the questions easily. And I hope we can cover all because those are great questions asked from the floor. So if for all the speakers, if you don't mind, I would like to go with the order of speaking that just happened. So the first 2 questions go towards David. Actually is from one of our participants, Rob John. And his question is about how do you finance the early stage of your product testing of your product? So that is the first question for David. So David, please.
Right, thanks for the question. I think it's very relevant to any initial startup of a social enterprise. I think especially when it comes to hardware, there's a lot of costs that can be involved. How we managed to tackle that is we're thankful for various grants, that small amount of grants that came in from the university first. Subsequently, I think the early revenues really helped, and what we did was to start selling the initial prototypes. So I think don't be afraid of even trying to sell the prototypes, because we were surprised that actually started to sell, and we didn't price it very expensive. We did this small filter. We started off with a small filter that only was about $30 odd in Singapore dollars, so $20+ in USD. And it was quite easy for people to just try it out. And so people bought it and they gave us feedback. They told us about how to improve it. And so that helped us to get quite a bit of revenue in the early stages to fund at least the prototyping. It may not be able to fund all salaries, but at least it helps to break even on your early stage prototyping. Yeah, so we also had to figure out how to deploy it on the field, and traveling, there's a cost to it. What we did was to partner with NGOs and tell them that why not we have a mutual collaboration where you need a level of water consultation and understanding of the ground, and that's what we can provide. At the same time, you can you can, we would like to test our products and systems with your communities. Maybe what we can do is that you bring us over to your communities and you pay for our transport and lodging. And at the same time, we provide you with this free consultation and testing of products. So that eventually worked out with our first collaboration with World Vision in Malaysia. And it gave us a very long period of like almost 1 year where we got to have access to the communities and regularly travel up and down. And thankfully, they were able to support our expenses. So I think that those two areas help us in funding the initial product testing.
Thank you, David. I guess your answers already address the second questions regarding the support from the government. So your early grants from the schools and the government helps in the early stage of the development.
Yep.
Of course, support from NUS, right?
Yes, definitely.
Okay, so let me move on to Professor Lin. And we have questions from the floor from Hector. How technological innovations can impact SDGs, keeping in view the current COVID-19, especially the healthcare technology? So Professor Lin?
Yeah, thank you, Howard. Well, firstly, I would like to also thank you all for allowing me to join this wonderful meeting online, because I did have learned a lot from you. What I would like to say again is that, you see, purely technological innovation won't really help us to solve social problems. So I would strongly suggest that all the social entrepreneurs, we should have more chances and dare to try cross-disciplinary innovation and try to link with more different stakeholders. Taking our City Love Social Enterprise as example, so we work with car manufacturer, we work with you know, even soil and water conservation bureau in Taiwan, because all these stakeholders and your business partners, or we could say that your social innovation partners will lead you to rethink and reflect about your innovation ideas. And then they would also link you with different resources that help you to implement your social innovation ideas. So just like, you know, how we met actually 5 years ago, and at that time, our City Love is still a information service provider. But now you see that from information service, and we develop it to consulting services, product developing, car designing, or even accessibility, hardware and service design. So all the things and all the possibilities helping us and pushing us to a new level that we could never imagine we could reach before. So I would say that, again, technological innovation itself won't really help us to solve social problems, but we have to link with the real, you know, the real users and the real stakeholders, and that will push us to the place that we really want to, you know, arrive. And I would also like to say sorry, because we have an unexpected delay of this session, and therefore I got a meeting to join immediately. So we hope that the COVID-19 will pass, Hong Kong will be free. I mean not just free, I mean free air and free travel. And then we also welcome all of you, Singaporean, Malaysian, and all of you to visit Taiwan. Okay, so I sent my contact information in our online chatting, and wish you all the success and all the best. Okay.
Thank you, Professor Lin. Actually,
thank you very much.
From Eugenia and Joey, and I will pass those questions to you. And actually, some of your answers that you have already covered about your development. And we met 5 years ago, and I'm really appreciated and grateful for your development. And thank you very much for joining us. So we will let Professor Lin to go first, and then let me move on to Jessica and Kinon. Very happy to see your presentation again, and it's really like a refreshing memory of your first pitching to the Impact Incubator of the SIE Fund in Hong Kong. And it has been a long time, but I'm happy to see the progress and the growth. So the first question from Rob John is about the status of mLang. So is it an NGO, social enterprise, or commercial enterprise? Is that legal structure constrain your growth or facilitate your growth? So maybe I pass to Jessica, so Jessica can comment on that.
Um, I would say we are a social enterprise, but we are not a registered NGO, but we are not profit making for sure. We're surviving upon funding. Um, that's a very good question indeed, Rob. So if we go like register as NGO, it kind of hinder us to apply for certain funding, I would say. That's why we do not go onto that path, but we do consider ourselves as a social enterprise because we're not profit making and we are serving the underprivileged of the society as well. So that's my answer.
Very good. Another question from Actor is about other than Chinese language, will mLang expand to other languages in the future?
That's a very good question. We got asked in like when we were in a panel meeting with the government. Um, on our platform, you can learn any languages as long as you have a teacher. So for example, in one of our partnership school, they use our platform to teach general studies to students and to teach science to students. So they would ask students to take a picture of action and reaction and inertia and ask them to verbally or verbally explain, like they have to take a picture of action reaction picture and they have to point it to where is the forces applied. So pretty much like anything you can imagine by using recording, written text, and photo, you can use our platform to learn, and you have a teacher to give feedback to you. So that's the concept of it. And now we are expanding. The tech team is wonderful. Keynote has a wonderful team. So we're expanding our functions that many teachers can manage one class. So they are co-teaching. We encourage teachers to share teaching practices. So it allows teachers to expand their horizon, not just in their own class and own discipline. So we encourage them to like work with Chinese, work with science, work with general studies to bombard some new ideas in their teaching. So it goes beyond like learning English and Chinese indeed.
Very good. Thank you, Jessica. So the creative design part actually involves lots of possibilities and open up opportunities. And let me move on to the equip. So I'm very impressed with your curriculum to teach how to repair things. I'm very amazed by this because this is what we need in Hong Kong and in some other countries, that you don't throw things away. Actually, you should repair things, right? And you have a very strong curriculum of IoT. And again, you are the outstanding student of Albert, from NUS. And actually, Albert having more and more stars in the future. Then back to your questions. I would say to start with the question for all speakers, but maybe you start first. While it's from Joey Chu, when engaging with government, negotiating, advocating, applying for financial supports, did you have any difficulties, and how do you overcome those difficulties? And I think this is really true to equip business because you have been expanded to 3 different countries, and I'm sure that you're the best person to and the first person to share your experiences with us.
Thank you, Howard, and thank you, Joey, for the question. To be honest, oh yes, there's like tons of difficulties working with governments. They're big corporations basically, and that's how we deal with them as well, like how we can basically create value for them. So the idea is whenever we are approaching any government organizations, we need to figure out how are we creating value for this government organization itself. And it does not have to be a national government itself. We can work from a city government to a state government, and then you go on to the actual national all over the population. And that's how we deal with it as well. So our community programs actually helped us a lot in developing these networks where people will come in and talk about us, and then they will refer us to their counterparts in other states or other cities as well. And that's how we grew the network through word of mouth most likely. And that's what helped us to gain all of this confidence with the governments as well. And it's not just the community programs, but actually the corporate partnerships as well helped us a lot because, again, corporates are a lot more linked to government organizations. So that helped again with the referrals as well. So there's always a foot in. It's just you need to keep knocking on the door a lot of times with a lot more values that you can bring in. And with our upskilling programs, AI skills programs were aligned with national policies as well. So the governments in these 2 countries saw the actual need of us to have it straight on. And that kind of helped us push us towards actual steps. I think that kind of answers the question from my side.
Yes, thank you, Equip. And I think one of your presentation style is to pointing to the national policy and the directions that applies to different countries is one of the best strategy to, as you mentioned, to lock on the doors, but with the light and the directions that they are also working with you and or walking with you. So thank you for your answer. So back to Jessica, and then later on with David. And Jessica, do you have, and Keen, Jessica and Keen, maybe you can comment something about your process of getting the support from the government, and how do you overcome the difficulty, or any tips that you can share with us?
Well, I have to say Howard had helped, but even though like Dr. Law has mentioned so many things about you, we are so grateful for your help along the way when we apply for funding. And I'll let Gin on to answer that first, and I'll supplement the answer. Gin on, please.
Okay, thank you, Jessica. For the questions, because due to the COVID-19, the outbreak of the COVID-19, we have applied some government funding, but unfortunately, this application has been hold back because the Hong Kong government has been working from home for quite a significant period of time. I think this is one of the major challenges we are facing when on applying for the government funding. But luckily for us is that we have some other source of funding which we can apply to, and they are kind enough to support us in the time being to continue our work towards offering the mLang to the disadvantaged communities. I've also, I think for this, Jessica, do you have any other things to add?
I would say like from meeting with different parties involving applying funding, we come from very different backgrounds, and sometimes it's just hard to get into the perspective and to gauge what their interests are. Like I come from an education background, so for me, it's like the most important thing is about training the teacher, because as long as the teachers has changed, their student would change. But from the perspective of the government, they see it differently. They want to have more beneficiaries. They want to see more about the learning outcomes. But like indeed, it doesn't work that way. Like the change should start from the teacher first, and then it will pass on to the student. So it takes time for us to communicate our concerns and our thinking throughout the funding applying process. That's how I see it.
Thank you.
How my experience. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica and Keen. And I must pass your compliment also to the team of Impact Incubator of the Hong Kong Council of Social Service. And I still remember the time that we had to work with your project, and you're one of our best projects that we put forward to the Social Entrepreneurship and Innovation Development Fund. And so that is quite an experience. So let me pass on the last questions to David. Any tips to share with your negotiations and applying applications with the government fund and also the funds from NUS? So any last advice for us, David?
Right. I think if this refers to this working with Singapore government, I think it's about speaking the language of the government and speaking to the kind of KPIs that they are looking at. So, for example, there was a time where productivity is important, innovation or very technology that has a deep level of innovation is important, or even being able to provide jobs. Right. So when we are stating our applications for grants like that, I think it's important to speak towards what is the government looking for that various season, and to be able to pin your KPIs accordingly and showing that you are in line with what they are what they are looking for. Right. I think for university, it could be slightly different. It could just be in terms of showing that this is a potentially novel aspect of development and is really innovative, and you have a strong team that can be able to see this through. The bar is usually a lot lower when it comes to university, but you have to show that everyone is committed. Yeah. I think when it comes to overseas governments, we do have to work with overseas government because our product is a commodity that is critical for local people, and sometimes if we don't have the permission of the government, it becomes challenging because they feel that you are taking or you're doing their job, right? So it's important that we get the blessing and the guidance and the overseeing of the government. So what's important is to work with local partners, identify good distributors or representative on the ground that can help to link us up with governments, and they are able to know how to pitch our project together, so that we are able to get the permission and the blessing of the government to be able to do the work that we do on the ground. Yeah, so that's all I have to share.
Thank you, David. I guess your tips on walking on the fine line between what they want to do or what you are about to do is very important, you know, and the different yardsticks of different entities are also important. Those are the approach with the KPI and also the approach at the universities with innovations. And I think that will help the audience to understand more about different expectations. And moving forward, you know, this is something that we need to be very careful about, and also to plan ahead, you know, if we are about to start any social enterprise in the future. Let me recap with all the great speakers of your answers to the floors. I think the enthusiasm of today's sessions very much come from your passions and your ideas in your own countries, helping with different solutions. And one common thing that I find in all of your slides is about all the big smiles from the participant and the beneficiary that they receive from your product and the solutions and the services. And I'm very proud to present your ideas and your sharings to all of my friends in the future. And I hope that we can meet with every one of you face to face in the near future. Albert, I will pass the floor to you to make the final conclusion.
Okay, thank you, Howard. Thank you, speakers, and thank you, participants. I think it's getting late, so I probably should hand you over to Gomer. Gomer, do you have any housekeeping announcements for us?
Yes, Professor Albert, just to say that all presentations from this from the SIL conference day 1 and day 2 will be posted in the ISAIA webpage, which we will send the link to after the conference. Also, I would like to extend my appreciation to everyone who have contributed, participated, and indulged us in the SIL conference 2020, and thank you for making it a huge success. We look forward to working with you and your other partners in the future, and that to really co-develop the multi-stakeholder platform on technological innovations for sustainable development. Thank you very much from ISAIA, and we hope to engage again everybody soon. Back to you for your last words, Professor Albert.
Oh, okay. Actually, no profound last words, but just a very big thank you to Gomer, who has worked really hard these past few weeks to put together our sub-plenary session. So thank you very much, Gomer, and a very good evening to one and all. Thank you.
Thank you, Albert. Thank you, Gomer. Thank you, all the speakers.
Thanks, everyone. See you soon, yeah?
Good evening.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
For your sharing.